Anybody else still learning and studying? Yeah, me too. Okay, I passed my first licensing exam a couple weeks ago, and I'm waiting for clearance to take the second one. So it's a really long journey, but God willing, at some point it does end. We license on our own terms. So how did I get here? Like Claudia said, I graduated Fullerton in 2010, and I found I really liked working with couples. So I've been seeing clients as a trainee starting in 2009, and when I used some of these techniques that I learned in school, they worked, much to my surprise. So there's this immediate gratification for me in working with couples. You have a couple come in like this. How do you know I'm here? Their body language is closed, and they're verbally telling you they don't want to be here, there's no hope, and 2 hours later, because I do double sessions, they walk out hugging. And the first time that happened, I walked out in front of my couple going, because I have some baby techniques, but they work. So the goal is to teach you some of those today. Okay, so welcome to the exploration of love in the cross-species world. That's why we're all here, right? Okay. Yes. Actually, it is because men are from Mars, women are from Venus, men are one species, women are another, oftentimes. And so what we're really here to talk about is understanding the true nature of all animals. I used to think it was just mammals, but I have hence seen it's not just mammals. For connection. Because in connection, there's survival. So connection is our true nature. And our job as therapists, and I hold this is our number one absolute job, is to ensure a safe environment, safe underlined a bunch of times, for our clients to connect back with their true nature and their partners. So as with all living beings, we're designed to survive, and therefore we are programmed to pursue that which will keep us alive. So what do all these cute cuddling mammals have to do with survival? Just look at how strong the drive for connection is, that even interspecies, they reach out to each other for connection, for protection, for safety, and to protect. There's this marvelous educational source called Facebook. Anybody ever heard of that? And I've seen videos of a crow protecting, parenting a kitten. It was the weirdest thing. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it. But crow, kitten, bird, number one natural enemies, but this nurturing thing of and bringing food to kitten. So there's an amazing range, and all because connection is our true nature. Ever heard of safety in numbers? Okay, so think about gangs, tribes, clubs, communities, mosques, synagogues, churches, HOA, no, scratch HOA, sorry. Connection is our neurobiological survival imperative. We must connect. And we connect for protection, we connect to procreate, to keep populating our species, and we connect so that we bond with those creatures that we create and ensure that they survive into adulthood. So from the time we're born until the time we die, we are constantly sending out pings to those with whom we're in a relationship, like a radar. Ping, are you there for me? Ping, can I count on you? And Sue Johnson, who developed emotion-focused therapy, EFT, it's an attachment-based way of working with couples. She said, basically, that's all we ever want to know with our partner. Are you there for me? Can I count on you? And if the feeling is no, or in actuality is no, it's disintegrating. It really becomes a survival thing, the feeling of life and death. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So these pings, John Gottman calls bids. So John Gottman is probably the preeminent relationship researcher. His research is great. He has the Love Lab in Seattle, Washington. Now, imagine this beautiful bed and breakfast, and it overlooks a lake, and it's exactly like a place you would want to spend a romantic weekend, except for the little fact that they are completely wired for sound, for camera, for physiological, biological responses, and the cameras follow them everywhere. But aside from that, it's just like any bed and breakfast you want to have. And after decades of research, he is able to determine with over 90% accuracy which relationships are destined to fail. And he's come up with a ratio of 5-to-1. 5 positive interactions for 1 negative interaction, just to maintain a relationship. So what is a positive interaction? It can be attention, affection, appreciation, a caress as you're walking by into the kitchen on the way to do dishes. It's anything that is, it is praise, it's stroking the ego. Am I going to tell that story? I might tell that story. And anything that kind of fills up your partner. And just for a moment, because all of those moments register. So 5-to-1. Now, the masters of relationship, according to Gottman, are doing it far more than that, and the disasters of a relationship don't even hit 1-to-1. Not even one full positive interaction to negative. Because it's constant criticism. It's constant negative. So what happens in a relationship like that is something that John Gottman calls negative sentiment override. So that even when there's something positive that sneaks into the relationship, it's gone. Because it just like gets sucked up into this cloud of negativity. So the goal with the 5-to-1 is to keep making deposits into this emotional bank account so that if there is negative introduced, then it kind of gets absorbed into this general atmosphere of positivity. So there's that 5-to-1 to be maintaining a relationship, more than that to be masters. And turning towards a partner's bid. Now in one of the videos from the Love Lab, there was a couple there and the guy's on the couch reading the newspaper. And the woman is standing by the window drinking her coffee, and she goes, "Oh, look at that boat." And she looks at him, just like babies will do. You will see that hopefully in a video that works. But given the Wi-Fi situation, maybe not. So she looks at her husband to see, "Are you there for me?" And he never even lifts his head, as if he never heard anything. And you watch her face just fall. Bids are rarely repeated. Maybe in masters of relationships, because they think, it was an oversight, my husband, my wife really does care, right? Just didn't care. That would be turning away from his wife's bid. Hugely turning towards would be, "Oh, really? Where? Oh my gosh, yeah, it's beautiful." Matching somebody's emotion is a very good way of turning towards their bid. So you always want to turn towards. And everything we put out is a bid. And sometimes they're not real healthy and they're not real positive. It might be something like, "Would it really kill you to put your dirty underwear in the hamper?" So you say you're really frustrated when you keep seeing my dirty underwear on the floor. It would take a champion master of relationships to respond to a bid like that. So teaching people how to interact is also part of our work. So, like I said, from the time we're born, we are constantly checking, "Are you there for me?" The fastest growing part of the human brain in the first 18 months of life is the limbic system. The limbic system, where all kinds of emotional stuff goes on, not real rational, and a lot of interpretation of nonverbal communication. Why is that so important? Because when baby looks at mommy's face, I need to know that you're looking at me with something good, something positive, something loving, something happy to see me. I need to be able to distinguish a scowl from goo goo gaga. Why? Because if I can't get you to go goo goo gaga with me, you're going to leave me out in the cold and I'm going to be eaten by the wolves.
Whoa.
Does the baby know that? No. Is connection life and death? Yes. And we don't lose that drive. It feels like life and death on a limbic level, on an implicit memory level. That's why people fight so hard to reconnect, because it feels disintegrating when someone we love abandons us. Because we're going to get left out in the cold and the wolves are going to eat us. Okay. So for our physical, social, emotional survival, we're back to our nature of connection. We're hardwired for it. I just want to see what happens when I click on this. Yeah, no. Oh, maybe. Wouldn't that be cool if it did? I think it's going to. It would be really cool if we had sound. Let's see. Skip this ad in 3, 2, 1.
Have you ever been told
Skip ad.
not on the screen?
Babies this young are extremely responsive to
minimize the
the
PowerPoint.
emotions
Okay.
and reactivity and the social
We have a
interaction
technical solution. Wait, hold on. You can hear
around them. This is something that we started
and
studying
see.
34 years ago.
You gotta minimize the PowerPoint.
Minimize the PowerPoint.
Could engage in social interaction.
Page to the
And
rest.
it's still fakes experiment what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with the baby who's about a year of age. And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her. This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what
The sound in the bottom left.
is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby.
Maybe there's a knob underneath
Baby
the
very
receiver
picks
type
up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother.
Oh.
She points because she's the mother. She points.
That's a bid. Yeah, are you there for me?
Baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening?"
Oh.
She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
And she immediately checks, are you really back with me?
The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when we stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Yeah, still phase experiment. And what you're seeing is the bits, the pins from day one. It's survival. And you see like the desperation of the child who finally just dysregulates. She loses it. Now thank God this baby has healthy and secure attachment. So as soon as mom is back online, that child is comforted. But imagine in a situation where that weren't the case. That creates some real ambivalent attachment, and kids react and subsequently adults react in ways that don't serve them. And often we'll see that in our borderline clients. I heard somebody say borderline is described as, I hate you, don't leave me, right? So in orphanages, this was a study in Romania, that people would come to the orphanages, researchers, and the kids were all over them, like pick me up, love me, hold me, because they're craving, they're dying for this attention. But as soon as you pick them up, they were so dysregulated that they would squirm and get down. It's like they had no tolerance for it. So I happen to think borderline is an attachment issue, but that's just me. Okay. So let me see if we can move on. Next slide. Alrighty. So we've talked about our true nature of connection for survival. So what happens if we are so hardwired for connection, like how do we end up with so many disconnected couples? Well, it happens because also part of our survival is avoiding threat and danger. So what happens when we perceive threat, okay, the guy whose underwear is on the floor, he had a critical mother. And mom would yell, mom would be judgmental, insulting, critical. And when she was done with all of that, she just ignored him. So his implicit memory, when wife says, you can't pick the clothes up off the floor, he doesn't see his wife. I mean, he sees his wife. But his implicit memory goes, I know where this is going. I know this experience. And that is a threat. And his body, his physiology, his brain, everything responds to the threat of being abandoned, emotionally abandoned. So the frontal lobes click off, the ones that make us reasonable and rational, that allow us to have conversations and to respond like, oh, it's really frustrating too when I leave my clothes on the floor. And your reptilian brain kicks on. And it's really interesting looking at a functional MRI of somebody in the reptilian mode, because the entire skull is dark except for the reptilian brain. Like literally your frontal lobes have gone offline. So in that state of being triggered by perceived threat and danger, there's nobody to talk to. You'd be talking to a wall because they're not thinking. They're just in fight, flight, or freeze mode. So if you were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, for example, despite the fact that our nature is connection, you wouldn't say, oh, nice kitty, here kitty kitty. You'd run like crazy, right? Okay. Because that's all we know how to do in the face of threat. The good news is you can bring frontal lobes back online. There are ways that as clinicians you can teach your clients to regulate. Talking actually brings frontal lobes back online, mostly talking to yourself, not to your partner, because if you try talking to your partner in that moment, you would be an alligator and it wouldn't be very constructive. But things like, you're safe, it's okay. This is not about me. Because here's a really, really important piece. When there's a conflict and somebody else is triggered and they're yelling at you, you did this and you did that, and you're such a, well, it feels really personal. What do you mean it's not personal? It's not personal because based on their perception of things, they have a reaction that they have. Make sense? So if guy in dirty clothes, based on his reaction that having lived with critical mom, his fear, his overreaction to that, his feeling of danger, his wanting to attack and lash out and yell at his wife, that's his stuff. She just said, could you please pick the stuff off the floor, right? So it's not about her. Yes, she could have said it nicely. That part is about her. And whatever your part is, you want to own it, but your partner's reaction, that's not your stuff. So if you can tell yourself, you're safe, you're fine, it's not personal, you begin to bring your frontal lobes back online, you're integrating sides of your brain, your limbic system is over here, your language system is over here, you begin to integrate. And those are skills you can teach your client. So one of the other obstacles to connection are the four things, and this is the four things that John Gottman says contribute to the demise of a relationship. And he calls them the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So defensiveness, I don't know why I went with that one first, but it could be anything from like, oh no I didn't, to, really, you're going to criticize me for the stuff on the floor? Have you looked around? Do you see all the stuff that's on, what about all your piles in the cat? That's not addressing what's being said. It's not allowing yourself to be open to influence. Defensiveness. Criticism is pretty clear, right? We all know what that is and what it feels like. Contempt can be rolling your eyes. It can be judgmental comments. You are such a fill in the blank, right? That really attack somebody's character as opposed to perhaps the issue that you're trying to deal with. And stonewalling. Stonewalling is kind of a favorite with men, and it used to be just thought of as a way of like, I'm just not going to deal with this, a choice. But Dr. Gottman found it's not so much a choice, but a physiological reaction, because men get flooded. Hetty Schleifer gives the analogy of a tortoise in a hailstorm. And there's a tortoise in a hailstorm in a relationship where they're walking along and the hailstorm says, you don't pay enough attention to me. And he gets a little nervous and he slows down a little bit and he's already a tortoise. So it's like, you're never with me. I want you to be with me. And now he gets a little more scared and pulls into the shell. And by the way, the more he pulls in, the more she hails at him. Women tend to be hailstorms. We are empirically better verbally than men. And we often overwhelm men with this barrage, this hailstorm of words. And so what happens is kind of a defense mechanism of self-regulation. Men shut down. It's like, I can't deal with this. So they go into a place of, okay, I'm gonna freeze. This is what stonewalling physiologically is. I'm gonna sit here in reptilian mode and I'm gonna freeze, and she's gonna stop. She can't keep doing this forever. I'm just gonna shut up, because if I open my mouth, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. It's never the right thing. She can't keep doing this forever. Oh my God, she's still talking. That's stonewalling. It makes sense. So again, when you're explaining this to your couples, there's responsibility that the woman can take when she says, he never talks to me. Well, she can try making it a little safer for him and speaking in the essence of what's important, not the story. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Okay. So, is this a frog? A horse. She's a horse? Okay, turn your head to the side.
Which side?
That was really cute. I did that and I saw a whole room full of people going like this. Okay, it's a horse's head. I don't see it.
Oh.
I don't see it. So, it's a horse's head.
Yeah, you don't have two components.
I had somebody blocking you, so it didn't make
For
sense.
those of you who saw the frog, was the lady who saw the horse wrong? Was she lying? You're sure? Okay. It was her perception. It's absolutely true. Your perception is a horse, you're absolutely 100% right, and your perception is a frog, and you are absolutely 100% right. Wait a minute, how can you both be 100% right?
Because it's hard.
Well, you can, because there are very few absolute truths in this world. It depends on your perspective. It depends on how you perceive things. And both of those are really very dependent on your life experience. Because everybody is different. So, okay, how many here think that everybody should agree with your opinion? Yeah? I love honest people. I do. But the truth is,
Naive
most
to
of us
think
do.
that.
But we all know the right answer. The right answer is no. Not really. But yeah, really. Because what we do is frog. No, it's not a horse. What is wrong with you? Can't you see? Because if you don't agree with me yet, clearly you don't have enough information. So I'm just going to keep talking. I'm going to be a hailstorm. Because if you don't see that I'm right, it's just that I haven't given you enough information. And sometimes I'm going to give you information, and sometimes I'm going to browbeat you, because I can't allow into possibility the fact that maybe your perspective is equally valid. How many of you remember, I don't know, 4 or 5 months back, the dress that broke the internet?
Yeah.
Okay. So the part that amazed me was I was watching Twitter feeds, and there are celebrities now involved in it. There was even a head of state involved in it. But whatever the celebrity, and I'm really bad at celebrities, one of them was responding to her friend saying, "What the F is wrong with you people? It's a blue or gold or what?" And I thought, okay, wow, I need to write a blog about this. Because I was so stunned with this attachment to absolutely be right. Why? If you don't see that I'm right, you might abandon me. That's my theory. So perception can be a really, really strong disconnector until people understand that there can be two totally different perspectives, perceptions, and equally valid. Okay. So what we're going to do now is ask for 2 volunteers. They can be same sex, different sexes. This is for learning, folks.
I'm always in. Let's go.
Alrighty,
Yeah,
one in.
Right.
Need one more person.
I'll do it.
Come on up. Okay.
I like you. I like you.
Have a seat in the seats
Oh,
facing each
we've
other.
got like a situation here.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is kind of go through what a first session with a client might look like based on an understanding of the things that we talked about, based on attachment, based on creating a safe environment, holding your clients to give them the opportunity to return to their true nature, and everything else. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't sign up on Psyched About Love sign-in sheets at the front, if you give me your email address, I will give you handouts which will put some of this stuff in and email to you. Okay. All right. Okay. Everybody okay? Can see here well enough? Okay. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is Bree, I should know that. Okay. Bree, since you're the one who called me, what I'd like you to do is pretend that, what's your name? Okay, Katie is, let's see. Sorry, start for a moment. Okay. Pretend you're in the waiting room. What are 3 things that Katie would say that you do that contribute to tension in the relationship?
I go out till lunch too long. What are safe to share words?
We're all friends.
How about I could be more organized and I could be more motivated. do more.
Okay, so Katie would say that you go out to lunch with your girlfriends too much, that you could be more motivated, and
It's more organized.
more organized and motivated. Okay. At this point, what I'd be doing is I make like a little T, and I put Katie would say, Bree would say, and then I write them down. And I can send this to you in email also. And next to each of them, then I would turn to Katie and say, okay, so of the 3 things that Bree said, what number would you give them from 0 to 10 in terms of how much tension they actually do create in the relationship? And first I'm going to ask actually Bree how much. And their numbers may vary. And the truth is, this whole process is a bit informative, but it's here. It's frontal lobe. So we're just talking, and I haven't made it unsafe by saying, so, I understand you're having conflict. Do you want to tell me about it? Because they will. And then we're off and running at the races, and the alligators are out of their cages. And there are some therapists who do have clients fight in their office. I think that's devastating. I will do it one time and one time only, but with a very specific purpose, but that would be an advanced training. But certainly not in the first session, because I want them to feel safe. So then after Bree tells me what Katie would say if Bree were in the waiting room, and what numbers each would assign, I would switch it up. Okay. So then, I would say, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to give you a way to talk about some of these issues, or any issue. And we do that by creating a bridge. Because as I explained before, over here in Katie land, your world makes 100% sense. And you're right. And over here in Bree land, you're also 100% right.
Actually, are networking.
Exactly. 100% right. So we're going to create this possibility that you can visit each other's worlds. What I would do at this point is really bring them into the room and just do a little visualization, have them sit, relax, remind them why they're here, use a gentle voice, use a soothing voice, that you're here to learn how to connect, and that you're in a safe place. And that while most of what is said is not about you, that the part that is yours, you own it. And you want to be an open and receptive partner for your partner. Okay, so the very first thing that I do, and this is a little different than Imago, who will maintain a little bit of space, but you guys okay touching each other? Okay, great. So what I have you do is move your chairs close enough so that the knees of one can be against the chair of the other. Okay. It's a little intimate. Okay. And go ahead and move hands. Okay. And again, just breathe and relax. Oh, and by the way, I would have pillows here. Why? Because I would explain to them the limbic distance is about 18 inches. Think of a baby nursing at its mother's breast. That's about 18 inches. So to get within a limbic zone, you want mirror neurons firing. You want them connected. And sometimes they will be like, oh, hell no. And you let them breathe through that also. Because they have signed on, and I do this literally, to let you be their guide, to trust you. Because the way that they're doing it is not working. As if it were, they wouldn't be in the office. Okay. So, go ahead and close your eyes. And just kind of reflect on some of the stuff that's stirring up that really wants to have a forum and a safe place to talk about with your partner. Yeah? Okay. Well, we're probably not going to go into that, so it's okay.
Think of my husband or Katie?
I know. It's amazing, no matter which way you play it, whether you do it as role play or whether you do it as real stuff comes up. Okay. So, as you think about this visit, one of you is going to host and one of you is going to visit. And I'm going to ask you to choose the one that is most challenging for you. If you jump to go, I want to host, I want to tell her all about my land and what's going on, and that's usually your role. And Bree, maybe your role is to not be the one so forthcoming. So I'm going to ask you to challenge yourselves. So go ahead and open your eyes, and you guys decide who is going to host this visit, who's going to share their world, and who's going to visit.
Would you like to host? No, I'm gonna make you host.
So remember, so it's not about it's about which would be the most challenging for you.
Definitely for me to host.
Okay, so hosting is most challenging for you. How about you, Bree?
I really don't know what the other job is.
So, the other job. So the other job is really challenging. The other job is visiting. Now imagine you're crossing this bridge, and it's a very narrow bridge. You can't bring any of your emotional baggage with you. There's just room for one person at a time. And you can't bring contraband in your pockets either. And contraband looks like pride, rightness, fear. It's contraband. So as you cross the bridge, you're going to leave all that stuff in Bree land. And you can put it in a beautifully safe box. It's going to be there. Nobody is denying you of your stuff. It just doesn't get to go with you. Okay? And as you cross the bridge, you breathe. And you remind yourself that this is not personal. And that you're traveling with an authentic curiosity to know what's going on in Katie land. And you really want to see. Because it's a different culture. It's a different terrain. It's a different language. And you think you know what's going on for her, but you have no idea. So that's what visiting looks like.
I feel like that'd be easier for me.
Okay. So for both of you, the challenge would be to host. Okay. And in session, I would let them work it out. Okay? Because even that is important. But for now, let them host.
Okay, I'm gonna say what?
Okay. So to host, a good host, the very first thing a host does is sends an invitation, right? So you say, Bree, would you come across the bridge to Katie land?
I'd love to.
Thank you. So that's great. So the answer is thank you for the invitation. Because whether or not you choose to go, you always are a polite guest, right? And you might not always want to go. Because if you're triggered and you're pissed off and you got all kinds of stuff and you know you're not going to be a safe partner, your response might be, I thank you for the invitation, but this is a really lousy time. So give me a couple hours and we'll talk about it then. And it's really important to have a get back to you time. Otherwise, the other one starts disintegrating into abandonment. Okay? So it may make sense here that you can't talk to me because you're really pissed, but it feels like you don't love me. It feels like you're abandoning me. So I need to hear you say, I cannot talk to you right now. Thank you for the invitation. I will talk to you. It's not good right now. It's not good for both of us. Okay, so she invited. You said thank you. You said I'd love to. So now you're going to cross the bridge and you're going to breathe because you might hear some stuff that might, you know, kind of wake up your alligator who's not supposed to be with you anyway. But in case you snuck him in your pocket, and take your time. And when you've landed, you say, I'm here.
This is actually really hard. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So this space right here, this is your relational space. And you are both not 50-50% responsible for what goes into it. You are both 100% responsible for what goes into it. Because if you choose to put in love and caring and safety and concern, this space is like so soft and mushy, not just for you, but for your kids, for your pets, because they live in this space. And it's like a magnet, they attract. But also like a magnet, if what you choose to put in here is criticism and judgment and anger, it's like magnets that repel. So the choice is yours. You're going to want to fill this with good stuff. And in order to do that, you're going to share the essence, and only the essence, of what you really need Bree to understand. It's not about stories. It's not about big situations. You want to give her enough information to know what you're talking about. But you're talking about feelings. I really want you to know that when you did okay, so whether it's a real relationship or Bree, however you want to do it, I'm going to ask you to share a statement of essence with Bree.
I can say when you
You may.
okay. When you cancel dinner dates to host a last minute yoga class.
Okay. And so that was great. So that was this authentic curiosity of, oh, okay. So you're just going to reflect. I hear you saying. And you're going to use her words to let her know that you really did hear what she said.
That it can be hurtful when I cancel.
You're just going to use her words. So it really hurts you when I.
Oh, it really hurts you when I cancel dinner dates. So it has something to do with yoga.
Teachable, yeah. And then you would say, did I get you?
Did I get you?
That's it. Right? Because you're checking, like, am I, okay. Tell me more.
I don't intend to hurt
No,
you. No?
you would say, tell me more.
Well, it feels like you don't value your time with me as much as you do your yoga friends.
Feels like, shoot, what was
Feels like you value your yoga friends more than you value your time.
I understand where you're coming from. No?
No, see, this is what's awesome. I'm so glad you did that.
Exactly.
Right, and I'll tell you why, because as soon as you say, I understand, you're back in Bree land. She doesn't care what you understand, right? She wants to know that you understand Katie, right? You see the difference? It's so important in being seen and feeling heard and understood, because you have removed yourself and your land to totally be with Katie in Katie land, with an authentic curiosity, and she's doing a great job. You know, she's not hitting you with the broom hidden behind the closet. She's just, okay. Make sense? All right, so there, I'm gonna stop this, not stop it. So that's the first step. The first step is, I hear you, okay? The second step is, I see you. And I see you means in terms of, I see you as Katie. I see you as different from me. I see you as having perspectives and feelings and opinions that are different. And so I'm just gonna kind of give a summary of what I've heard you say, because I see you as distinct from me. So you want to just give a summary of what she said.
I see you and how my actions may hurt your feelings. I make you feel like I value my yoga friends.
Am I with you? You would ask.
Am I with you?
You're with me.
Great. Now, terrific. For purposes of this exercise, I would say back, I didn't say may hurt my feelings.
Ooh.
I didn't say me hurt my feelings.
It really hurts me.
It really hurts me.
And then
I
you would
hear
just,
you.
no, don't say it.
Really
Just reflect, just reflect that. Just reflect that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
That it really hurts me.
Yeah. Right. And the third step is, the third step is feel. You're going to stretch that empathy muscle. So right now, I imagine, Katie, that you're feeling
Hurt. Imagine you're feeling hurt. I imagine you feel disappointed. And not done.
And at this point, you would ask, is that how you feel? Because this was a stretch. She's like putting herself out there. Is that how you feel?
Is that how you feel?
That was helpful. Okay. And the host may say, you got a lot, because you always want to validate the efforts of taking the risk to empathize. You got a lot, and what I really want you to know is fill in the blank. Okay? And that would be like a very basic dialogue that would usually go a lot longer. And it is kind of fabulous. So if we have time, we can either partner up and do this. It's kind of a weird setting to do it, but just to turn to the person next to you and kind of run through this and have questions. Or we can just go to questions. So who would like to practice this? Okay, and who would just like to do questions? Okay, we've got mostly no votes. And, okay, all right. Very good. Yeah, you're good. Thank you so much. There was one thing that I forgot, and it's important. As they're first sitting down, and they close their eyes, when they open their eyes, you want to coach them. Just like that baby with the limbic system, to talk to each other with your eyes, to tell your partner how glad you are that she's here, to tell your partner how much you love him. And you can use your hands, put your hands, tell your partner how much he's loved, because you're really getting that limbic system connected. Okay, so that's part of the coaching of it. Okay. Any questions?
So the exact script is pretty important. The I hear you, the I see you.
Yeah.
No offshoot of that, like I said, the I understand part, no understanding, no I get you, it's all I physically hear what you're saying, and then a repeat of as close to what the person is saying as you can remember.
As possible, right, because if Bree were to have said, you know, I understand, and that must be really hard for you, even though that's compassion and that's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm really sorry, people get hung up with apologies. She's in her land, right? And then it becomes a conversation. You don't want a conversation. You want this to be a sacred space ritual. And rituals have a specific format to it. And the more ritualized it can become, the better, because the safer you begin to feel in it. You know exactly how this is going to play out. So the answer is right. You really do want to stick to the format, to the script.
So it's kind of about, so it's at the beginning of each part of the exercise, it's about two people talking about one person, and then eventually it is about kind of like, I think you're feeling this, and I think kind of making that connection, like, you know, it's like two people talking about one thing, and then eventually one person tries to empathize a little bit more.
Correct. Right. So in the third step, there is that empathy. There is that, like, okay, so over here in Ryan land, I'm imagining that you are feeling X, Y, and Z. Right.
Just translate these three steps. The I hear you is the repeating of what you heard,
Mhm.
right? The I see you is what is the I see you?
the idea is the summary.
Oh, okay.
That, like, I've heard you and I really see that, wow, you are totally separate and distinct from me. Because what I heard you say was X, Y, and Z. I was with you, I had this authentic curiosity, I saw the terrain, the culture, the language. I'm really seeing you and how this is for you.
So it's the reflection, and then the summary, and then what's the last one?
The stretching that empathy muscle, I
Got it.
imagine you're feeling.
Got it.
So like I said, it's like a sacred ritual, and all of these are spiritual teachers, and I really like what they have to say. Yes.
Does it all happen in one session?
Yes, which is why I do double sessions.
Okay, and then do you just see them one time, or do you continue with these people and then work on other stuff? Or is it always this every single time?
So this takes a long time to master.
So you just keep doing that in every single session, the
Being a
same process?
therapist and a wife, I know that it takes a lot, right? Because you can't just do this in your office. You want to bring in clear energy to and integrity into the work that you're doing, so you actually have to live it at home also.
Right.
But to really trust that process, to really be able to create new neural pathways that don't automatically go to alligator land. So every time they come in, you're essentially creating this bridge, but there are lots of different dialogues.
Okay.
There's even a goodbye dialogue. There's a goodbye dialogue for people who are ending a relationship, or there's a goodbye dialogue for people who are changing a relationship. We're saying goodbye to this dynamic, and we're saying goodbye to that, goodbye to that, goodbye to that, and we're saying hello to this new possibility. So there's tons and tons of dialogues, but they all are always formatted, because that keeps the safety.
So when you start a session, when you first see that couple, are you educating them on this concept before you start the process so that they have that dialogue information?
Absolutely. Okay. So I do see clients on a weekly basis. And I'm moving my practice now more towards 2-day work, meaning if it's an individual client's couple, it's an intensive, and it's a lot of this stuff, and it's different dialogues that completely shift the dynamic of the relationship. Or it's a workshop where there are various couples. So one, they get me the whole time, and the other, I will be kind of guiding the workshop, and there are other therapists to assist if needed.
And with these tools, how often do you see them be successful in training?
The majority I've been doing it for 4 years, I guess. Some rendition of these things. And I know of one couple. I want to say 2 couples, but I can only think of one at the moment who chose divorce. And then there may be others, truth be told, but if they don't come back, I don't know. So the people who stay and do the work, it's really transformational work.
I want to do those.
That so depends on the couple, because I've had couples come in and they're like, we want to do this, like tell us what to do, and they're home and they're doing homework and they're dialoguing at home, and then I have another couple who they're probably in their 60s, they are both struggling with depression, and this requires some energy. You have to bring some energy to the work. And they connect each time they come, and then they go home. And then they do what they normally do. They come and they connect. So I don't follow them home, so I don't know, but I suspect that if they had the energy to really actively do this more, they wouldn't need to. So if there was a couple that was really doing the work, and I were seeing them for a certain amount of time, I would say probably 10 to 12 sessions. They get, the information, and then it's up to them, which is why I love intensives and workshops, because you've got the info. Now you can do this or not, and an intensive, I'll include follow-up sessions, because this was this amazing thing, but now how do we really solve the day-to-day problems?
In the intensive, and I was curious about after your sessions are over, would it be wise for, is it usually the couple schedule a time to do something like this? You know, do they, when they do it at home, do they do the chair thing, and then they kind of do their kind of ritual? Is it like a once a week thing, or is it like a once every couple of days thing? Is it
I
individual?
say the more often they do it, the better, because again, you're retraining your brain that this is safe, that this is a new okay way to do it. So maybe they're decompressing at the end of the day, and they're just dialoguing about their day at work, as opposed to she comes home, she had a lousy day, and he's trying to fix it for her. Or he comes home and had a lousy day, and she's telling you what he should have done to handle this situation and that person at the office. Like, most of the time we don't want that. We just want to feel heard and seen and understood. Daily, weekly, but make it a ritual. Whatever ritual you create for yourself, stick to it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.